live. Good morning.
Good morning, everybody.
Ooh.
Ooh. Is the focus being weird?
Yeah, it's my new phone. Hold on. We're trying to figure out the focus. I don't know. See if you can. It's not doing close up.
Hi, Ian. You might have to stay further back and zoom in.
Oh, I can do that. Okay, we're using a different device today. We did get commenting fixed finally.
Yes, so
that was our IT person who was like blocking things. It wasn't YouTube.
Nope.
It was our IT person trying to keep people at work working and not being on YouTube. But since that's Annie and I's job, we had a slight problem with that.
So now we can see comments.
Yes.
Which is really awesome.
Yeah, we can see comments now.
Yeah. So we have a couple people here.
Yes.
Okay. Well, this week, if you don't know, our Impression Dice Spotlight is all about celestial. So we've got stars, we've got moons, we've got suns, and there's lots of small components too in this spotlight. And so I think one of the really fun things that you can do is take a couple different designs and put them together, mix and match, and play around with it. So these are just some of the dies that are available in the spotlight. And then here's a necklace. You probably saw this one. I think, was that in the graphic for the...
No, I just posted a picture of it on the Facebook group.
Okay. But just showing how, pressing, this is a hoop earring.
Yes.
Design, originally.
And right in the spotlight, we have a right and left, which is super fun.
Oh, that is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a moon, and then just with this tiny little star accent, just right, suspended. Really striking and easy way to make a really nice, pretty necklace. Another one, just set a faceted stone at the base of a wonky star. I really do like that star.
These can just drive all of your very OCD friends nuts because of their asymmetricness.
Yes. And then this is another style. It's a Lariat style necklace. So most of the time with Lariats, you have a ring of some sort that you put the charm through and it dangles, making the necklace adjustable, things like that. Most of the time, this element is smaller than the hole in the, whatever ring piece you decide to make. In this case, this star was a little bit larger than the opening I made for this. And so I threaded the chain through, then attached the star. Just piece of advice, make sure that if you do this and you assemble it and this piece is too big to fit through here, that you make the chain long enough to go over a head before you cut your silver chain. Because right now, I've added a couple little rings there, but it is squeezing it onto my head. It's way too small.
I feel like we should make her try it on camera.
Oh my gosh.
I'm just kidding. I won't.
I will, but I have to have a moment.
No, it's okay. We won't make you. I was kidding.
I'll do it.
I was kidding. And it won't fit over my big head. I got big head and big hair.
You have big hair. So what we're gonna do, just because these all work well together in combination, we're gonna show you how to press. How would you describe it? Just sort of a...
Oh, sometimes people, they understand how to press little solid shot plates and designs that are more even. But this one is just slightly more challenging just because it's really narrow in some areas of the design, and then over here it's like a lot deeper. So I'm just gonna show you like how I would go about pressing this moon, and it'll be fast.
We're not going to cut it out.
No. And then Annie will show you the necklace demonstration and soldering and stuff.
It'll be just, you'll see how I solder versus, because Lynette did a soldering demo last week, right? I think so. I don't know if it was, you soldered last week.
What did we do last week?
I don't even remember. But just so you can see kind of how I solder, I'm going to use these two pieces to make a Lariat style necklace. I've already cut them out. This one is this die, and then I just made a hole in the center. And then this is part of a shot plate that's available. It's this shot plate. I'm covering up my mistakes. So it's these three. It's easy.
No, this is not a handmade chain. This is just like a bar chain that you can buy, from like Rio Grande or Halstead or, any place that you would buy chain. It's a pretty typical chain style.
It's really pretty. Especially, I like oxidized chains.
Yeah.
So all of these, like in the finished pieces that we have, the only soldering are these tiny little jump rings.
Right.
And so it doesn't have to be like a complex, fabricated piece. Just, I'm going to show you how I solder the silver little jump rings. And maybe we'll do like a quick assembly for how to assemble the Lariat style necklace. I also, like, let's say you wanted to purchase a couple of these dies and get them home. What I like to do is if I know I'm going to be making, like, I want to make a series of celestial style jewelry, is take some scrap metal, silver. I tend to just have a lot of scrap silver, so I just heat it into a ball and then make samples of the designs that you're going to be using, and then just play around, putting different elements together, thinking about where the jump rings could be, how they could be connected.
If you're not into necklaces, I think soldering a bunch of these, even like all the same star or different stars, like just in a little cascading line would be the cutest drop earrings. Like a little star, with this at the bottom or something, it would be so cute.
Something like that, maybe.
Yeah. Super cute. So these skills can be applied to other things. It doesn't have to be necklaces if necklaces aren't your thing.
Yeah. So that's sort of our plan. I think we're going to start first, and Lynette's going to show you how to press this moon, press this hoop earring design.
Okay. We're transitioning the camera, so hold your breath.
Sorry if we make it dizzy.
Okay, so like I mentioned, we have this impression die available as a right and left, so you could make both faces of the moon, which would be cool. In the silver sample that we were just looking at, I used 18 gauge sterling silver that was annealed. For this demonstration right now, I'm using 18 gauge copper that has been annealed. And it's cut a little larger than the design, so I have metal all the way around. And I'm
going to come to the other side of you.
Just going to center that as close as I can for now. And then I'm going to pay attention to, thank you.
Yeah.
Where the deepest, did you take that off? That's weird.
Oh, I put that one on this morning.
Okay. Sorry, I'm like, Annie's reminding me that I need the tool steel pusher. And it was on like a few minutes ago. She's messing with my head, you guys.
Again, sabotage, right? I love sabotaging my friends.
Rude. Okay, so this is going to be the deepest part of this design, or it is the deepest part of the design. So that's where I'm going to focus my initial pressure, and I'm going to try to get the metal kind of sunk down into that area, and then I'll worry about the rest of this like hoop.
Jennifer, I do not melt and roll my own copper scrap. It's dirty, it's messy, it takes a lot of heat.
When you melt copper too, it gets really porous because it's so dirty.
It is not worth it. Silver, yes. Copper,
so
no.
See how I'm starting to get that deep area? I'm going to use a slightly bigger piece of urethane in that spot just to get the metal to kind of press down in there. I'm not maxing out the pressure because I don't want to trap the copper around the edges and like thin it out. I'm just trying to get it to push down into that area. And then I'll switch back to the smaller urethane and, you know, make my way around.
Making sure everything is centered.
So see how I got more of the moon. Then we'll come up here. I'm centering the area that I'm applying pressure to. So I'm getting more of this face. We can take it out and look at it. So I'm starting to get some of the detail, but I still have a ways to go. You can kind of tell when you've maxed out the detail in the die when you see it, the metal go from this matte out of the pickle to shiny. That means it's contacting the steel and you're getting kind of the full depth of the die.
It's a really good gauge.
Yeah, so see how it's still really matte here, light matte pink, and here it's
cheeks
shiny.
are highlighted.
Yeah.
Shiny.
So I'm just scooching my urethane along. I can probably switch to an even smaller piece now because I'm getting into this really narrow part of the moon. You see how it's getting the metal down into that narrow? I could use an even smaller piece of urethane and it would work well.
And this is how you would press any hoop earring or any design that has areas that are deeper and areas that are more shallow.
It's not one size fits all with your urethane chunks. You're going to want to have
an assortment of chewed up bits.
Yeah. Slightly smaller piece again. Okay, and then we'll finish out this corner. Take a look at it again. We might need a little more depth in the face. So pretty close.
Yeah, it's
Could
close.
Get a little more depth along here. So I'll put it back in and just press those, kind of pay attention to where I need to press a little bit more in this corner and then along here. This bottomed out, so I think I'm pretty good on those areas.
Is it okay to melt blobs of copper for shot plates? I mean, you can, but like Lynette said, it gets brittle, it's super dirty.
I would do, if I were you, I would do shibuichi, which is a Japanese silver alloy, and you can do like 75% copper and 25% silver. It'll melt a lot smoother. It'll melt more like sterling rather than nasty like copper. And it's a really pretty, almost rose gold color. A little more right there.
Did you say you're using 18 gauge?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't even.
You could also use 20, I think, and it would be fine for this die.
Shibuichi.
SHIBUI. CHI. It's like a very high copper content silver alloy.
Yep, that's right, Jennifer.
And it sounds fancy. All right, so that looks
pretty good.
There's one more spot right there.
You could anneal it.
Yeah, I don't need to anneal it. I could just spend like a couple more seconds getting right here. I don't want to take up all the demo time with this because you guys are pretty well versed in pressing and we show it all the time. So I'm going to stop here. If you're having trouble getting the metal down into the depths, you can trim. Leave yourself like at least an 1/8 of an inch border all the way around. If I was going to trim this one, I would trim all the way around into here, all the way around here, and that'll help you be able to get the metal pressed down into the die a little bit better because you're not trying to move so much metal. And you can always re-anneal. But this one, I could press it. When I did the silver ones, it only took one annealing and pressing. So just a little more focused pressure and you're good.
And you could also press it solid if you wanted to. This one in particular is not terribly deep.
Right.
So you could press it solid.
Yeah.
Don't know what gauge, but you would have to. Yep.
Need some fatty silver wire. Okay. So that is that.
Okay. I'm going to trade you.
Sorry, guys.
We'll just come over here. I'm going to take a drink, though.
Okay. No beverages for you.
Okay.
So when you say you'll look for the Shibuichi, if you buy Shibuichi, it is freaking expensive. You will literally pay more for Shibuichi than you will for sterling, which is crazy because it's way less silver. You would have to make your own if you wanted it to actually be less expensive. Just a heads up.
But you could melt it in crucible in your just standard.
Yeah, or
crucible.
in your charcoal block.
Yeah.
You could do it exact same way you're melting silver scrap.
Okay, so what I'm going to show you is I'm going to solder one of these closed jump rings to the ring part of what's going to be the Lariat style necklace, and then I'm going to solder a ring to this. So it's very basic soldering. I do it just a little bit different from Lynette. I'm the liquid flux.
She's neater. I'm just like, it's mayhem.
Put it in
I've got sloppy flux all over the place.
So what I've done is I took this stamping and I cut it out, made a hole in the center, and then I also took this die, which is part of that shot plate. And after I cut this out, I refined the edges of this stamping to make sure that it was finished, how I wanted it to be. And then I adjusted the size of the hole in the center of the ring piece because in this case, I want the piece in the center to be able to pass through.
This is what it looked like originally.
Mm-hmm.
So she had to adapt it a little bit.
So when you're doing a Lariat style, like I said, most of the time you're going to want to be able to pass the piece or the dangly part. It's a technical term. Lynette's laughing at me.
The dangly bit.
The dangly bit.
Oh,
and
I just almost dropped my phone. Sorry, you guys.
I'm glad you didn't.
You're on a roller coaster. It's virtual reality.
So keeping that in mind, that it will fit through while it also, once it's connected to a ring as well. And that's going to vary. It's going to depend on, your design, things like that. This piece that Lynette just pressed could be the the ring portion of a Lariat style necklace as well. It was like you could add just a tiny bit of silver here, and then you could dangle whatever you wanted.
Or you could adapt the die. That would be a really easy one to carve out the rest of the way in the impression die. Like, say this was the moon. You could carve out and finish out the circle.
Yeah, that's actually a really good idea. For this Lariat style, here, I'll bring it over here. What I did is I pressed this and then cut it out completely, and then I soldered I think it was probably like a 16 or an 18 gauge wire. Then I scratched the surface of my stamping and I put it back in and completely smashed. I mean, I knew it was going to happen, but the wire that I had added on to create the ring here, it flattened out. I would do it again. I would do it differently. I would make sure not to scratch the stamping so I didn't have to flatten it again.
She's
but
talking
you modify
about this wire back here that she added to keep this closed. Turn it into a loop.
Also, I would use sterling and not fine silver. I'm pretty sure when I press this, I'm pretty sure this is fine silver. But we're gonna pretend it's sterling. For fine silver that's this thin and like narrow, it's gonna be really too flexible. It'll be too soft for use after we solder, but just a note for you when you make your own. Use sterling or copper. Just don't use fine silver.
Yeah, someone said that's another die you could carve. You absolutely could. 100%. If you knew you wanted to make, this part with this, you could carve right into the die so that you didn't have to do any soldering. And that's really smart.
Yeah. Okay. Anyone have any questions so far? We're going to take you over to the soldering station and hopefully I won't melt anything.
Hopefully you melt the solder.
Well, fact.
I'm so funny.
Hilarious, Lynette.
I know.
Okay. Come in kind of close. So when I am soldering jump rings to like the back of one of these, if I'm making just a tiny little charm, I will take a little piece of solder.
It's so dark over here. Hold on. I'm going to turn on your light. I think it will help.
Okay. A little bit?
Yeah.
Okay. Where did I put it?
Sorry.
Nope, you're good. Okay, we're going to take this piece of solder. Oh, I found it. Okay, so here's the solder. Can you see it? Should I put it on a white part?
Put it on the white. Perfect.
So yeah, much better. Okay, so I take a little tiny pallium of solder. This is hard solder. And then I'm going to take one of these closed jump rings that I do buy. I think they're is it the 1.5 millimeter closed ring, closed sterling silver jump ring. I buy them. I could make them, but I don't.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
It is so much easier just to buy them, and they're not terribly expensive. So these pieces are pressed solid, this little stamping. So what I'm gonna do, I'm going to figure out what orientation I want the star to be in when it's hanging. Is my hat in the way?
Nope.
Okay.
Not even close.
Okay. And then I just rest it. So I have the solder, I have the jump ring, and then I have my piece resting on top. And because the jump ring is so much smaller than the charm or the piece, the stamping that I'm attaching to it, I'm gonna focus all of my heat on this stamping. That is going to in turn heat up the jump ring, and then the solder will flow toward the heat. So it's gonna flow up toward the charm and solder it in place.
That's smart. I'm glad you're teaching this. The way I do it is not this smart.
It doesn't work for everything, but it works for a lot.
Oof, sorry guys. not trying to take you on a wild video ride.
I'm gonna go ahead and set up the same system, the same setup for the ring portion. You want to make sure that the solder is underneath the side of the jump ring that you're going to connect to the piece. I know, it's tiny. And this is why I like liquid flux.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to deal with
the mess and the sticky.
Mess. Nope. So this is just, is it Batterns? A liquid yellow flux, self-pickling flux.
And then you can buy these little squeeze bottles with like a syringe tip.
Mm-hmm. You can buy them from jewelry supply houses, but I tend to just get them on Amazon. You can get little tiny bottles and a bunch of them.
Thanks, Jennifer. Tips. We're using a different device for the video today, so just getting used to it.
So with this little dispenser, you can just bloop out a couple little dollops of flux. And so then you don't have to get a brush in there and move things out of the way. It's just, I find it for things like this, it's a lot easier.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna reach across.
I'm getting out of her way so she can grab the torch. She's using
Smith Little.
The Smith Little. You don't have to. You could use it. You know, a butane would be fine. If you only have the Silversmith, you could use this. You have to be careful with your heat control, or you could switch to like a 0 tip or a 00 and be a lot less likely to melt things. But you could absolutely get it soldered with this #1 tip on here. You just have to be careful.
I can give you my confession time. At home, I use this and a plumber's torch. Those are the torches I have. It's nothing fancy. If you do want a Smith Little torch, do not buy a knockoff.
No, don't. They're dangerous.
You can buy knockoffs of files. You can buy the cheap
punches. Stuff. Yeah, not a torch.
Don't risk it. Like, splurge on the stuff that could seriously cause issues, that could injure you. Okay, so I'm just gonna light the torch, turn the gas on a little. Well, before I move on.
Annie says she uses this and a plumber's torch, like a little propane handheld.
Disposable.
Yeah.
It does have like a hose with it, but I think it's like a Burns-O-Matic. It's nothing.
Hardware store torch.
Yeah. I wanted to talk real quick about setting this up. Again, because the jump ring is so tiny in mass compared to what we're attaching it to, I've set it up so that the jump ring is pointing toward me, so that when I'm heating it, my flame is going to be focused only on, it'll be pointed away from me, focusing all of the heat on the larger element, the charm.
If she had this turned around, it's really easy to be heating and focusing your eyes right here and not even realize that something right up here is melting.
Yep.
So that's why paying attention to the way you orient things and making it so you're less likely to have accidental melting is going to help you out.
Yeah. And that comes with practice and experience. I think I could say that both of us have melted many things.
So many things. It's how you learn.
It is how you learn. Okay. I'm going to try and keep the torch sort of in your view. One thing with the little torch, oftentimes you'll go straight to like a tiny blue hissing flame.
That is hot, folks.
It is hot, and it is full of oxygen, and it is, you're sort of asking for fire scale there.
Yeah, the more oxygen you have, the hotter the flame, the more oxidation you're going to get on the surface.
So I tend to go for like a more neutral flame. There's like at least in person, there's like a slight yellowish tinge.
Yeah, there's no hiss. Yeah. It's just a soft, like, whoosh.
Yeah, not a
whoosh. Yeah, if you hear the hiss, it's too hot for what we're doing here.
And this is probably, this flame is too big, but I'm just going to go with it anyway. Because this is a fairly small piece. But I'm directing my flame at the large part, at the star piece. And I'm kind of feathering it back and forth. I don't want to hold my torch in the same position for too long. That's where you'll risk melting it. And just like when you're soldering, you're looking for that silver flash where the solder will flow. And I can see that the silver is getting pretty pink, so it's gonna flow pretty soon. Oops. How's it already? I know, it was like right there. Let's move on to this one. I don't know what happened there. It probably shifted when I set up. And
yeah,
the solder's not there.
Yeah, I don't know.
So same sort of thing. We'll deal with that other one later.
Whenever you add oxygen to gas, it's going to burn a lot hotter. So this torch is real hot.
Yeah.
Got to be real careful.
It's like just sort of like barely touching the surface. There we go. So that flowed. Let it cool off a little bit. Oh, yeah, it shifted, so the solder wasn't even underneath the jump ring. So we're gonna go back at it. I saw the solder still resting on the board.
Yeah.
Less likely to happen if you're not talking and trying to do a demo at the same time. And I'm keeping it on there for like just a split second because, you know, I don't want it to.
It's so melt. Tiny.
I don't even think that fully flowed. It's about to melt. Woo! Look at it. We're gonna stop there and we'll try again. Okay. Make sure real quick. We have our pickle. It's hot, so it won't take too long. So yeah, it takes some heat control and making sure that your piece is actually on the solder. We'll clean it and then, well, no, we're gonna do a different jump ring.
If you want to learn heat control, I have a friend who started doing production work for a jeweler, and for 2 weeks she used this torch and she soldered tiny jump rings like this closed. 2 weeks of that, and now she has amazing heat control.
You have no choice.
If you want to get really good at heat control, solder a bazillion jump rings with a Smith Little.
Okay, we're gonna start over with this one. And I'm gonna make sure that I keep the jump ring on the solder when I put this in place. I don't know if you can see that there's a little tiny peak of solder poking through.
A little bit.
Okay, do the same thing. Put a little flux on there. And we're gonna do it again.
Yeah, if magnification helps, wear it. I mean, there's no reason to be struggling. Like, use the tools at your disposal to help you get the job done. And actually, this is a Smith Little propane, but if you're using a Smith Little acetylene, you should be wearing protective shades. The flame is very bright.
This time I made the flame much smaller, so it's not quite as hot. Let's see.
I saw it. It looked good. Yeah, sawing jump rings is not the most fun thing in the world. There are things that make it easier. We used to sell a coil cutter kit. We don't anymore. We have our coil cutter deluxe, which is awesome for cutting through jump rings. It's bigger price point tool, so it makes a lot of sense if you're doing a lot of jump rings and chain or heavy jump rings. Yeah. If you're just doing small batches once in a while, you can totally get away with using your jeweler's saw. Just takes practice.
I think I'm gonna sit it down. That'll probably be easier, you think, for you to focus on?
Yeah, the deluxe is cool. It is a big tool. Not a big tool, but it's a,
higher ticket.
Slightly larger purchase, yeah. So she got this soldered. You can see the ring is attached on the back. Very minimal cleanup will be necessary. And this is a stronger way to do it than, oh no, I dropped it on the floor. Sorry, Annie.
I sabotaged you earlier.
Did it on purpose. This is stronger than just soldering the jump ring to like the tip of that point of the snowflake. Soldering it on the back, you have more surface area. It's a stronger join. And this one looks perfect. It was worth all the struggle.
Yep. That is something that is also something to keep in mind, is like when you're struggling, when you have the torch on, something's not working exactly the way you want it to. She slammed into
something sharp. This hook just stabbed me in the back, but I'll be okay.
Good.
I think.
But if you're struggling and something's not flowing and something's not right, most of the time you'll have better success if you just turn the torch off, clean your pieces, and try again.
Yeah, go pickle those suckers.
Go pickle them, start fresh.
Someone wants to know if you used a disc cutter on
this. I did not. Mm-mm.
Wow, you got skills, Annie.
No, I don't. I sawed it out best I could to be a circle, and then I took a large setting burr.
Oh, that's smart.
To round it out.
Yeah, that's why it's perfect.
Yeah, it is not.
What is that, like 8 millimeter?
I have an assortment of
it's a big sucker.
Random things, but it was big. And then, so I just barely had to move it around there to make it perfectly circular.
Smart.
So then what you would do, I guess we can come back over here.
Okay. Someone's asking if you can show what a setting burr looks like. Those are in my bench. Down. Oh, I really doubt it. She's gonna get one out to show you. You could also use a ball burr.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've definitely done that before. Sorry. Yeah, you're not on me, are you?
No.
Okay. My foot just cramped.
I think your arm was showing, but not your face. Annie and I love to be on camera. Can you tell? Yes, this is a setting burr. So it has 90-degree sides, and then it comes to a point like the bottom of a faceted stone.
Mm-hmm.
There are burrs that also look kind of like this called heart burrs, but they're a 45-degree versus the 90-degree. So I would go with the setting burr. Yeah, this is a heart burr. This is a setting burr.
Yeah, I just have kind of over the years I've acquired a bunch of random burrs and things like that. So it was not part of a set. I don't know what size I used. It was bigger than this though.
Yeah.
But you could also use a round file or a half round file. You don't have to use the burr. That's just what I used to pretend.
A disc cutter would work too. You just would have to be careful not to like mar your stamping. You'd be more likely to mar your stamping, I think, in a disc cutter.
Yeah. So once you have your pieces, I'm not gonna go into assembly because it's putting a jump ring on it at the end of a chain. You would use an open jump ring to attach a chain to this piece, and then, you know, however long you want your piece to be, because this will fit through, and so you can remove it and put it back through, unlike this one. Gosh, I'll bring it to where I am. I just have to get it untangled. So this one, the star won't fit through here, but let's say you have a piece like this, cut your chain to whatever length you want, attach the dangle to the other end of the chain, and then what's nice about the Lariat style is like once it's on, you can adjust how low it's hanging, and things like that. And you could do, you know, say you wanted this to dangle. This won't fit through this hole, but you could thread attach it here, thread the other end through the opening, and then attach the star.
But that's what Annie was saying, make sure the chain's long enough to fit over your head.
Yep.
And a lot of times these little bits, like, you got to think about weight a little.
Mm-hmm.
You want it to be heavy enough that it's going to have a little bit of tension through this hole so that it will hold itself in there. If it's really light, it's going to be a little weird.
It could work its way up.
Yeah.
And also you don't want it to be too heavy, because then it's just
going to choke you.
It's your choker.
An actual choker.
Actual choker. Actual choke collar. You know, and same thing. She soldered just that tiny jump ring, the same jump ring.
Yeah, I use those 1.5 millimeter closed jump rings all the time.
Yeah, me too.
For all the things.
How long has it been? How long have we been going?
40 minutes.
Okay. Does anyone have questions about any of this? This is where we planned on ending it, but I might go ahead and carve into that die if that's something, you know, complete this circle. If somebody wanted to make that into a Lariat style, would anyone want to watch that?
How do you guys feel? You feel good about what we showed so far? Do you want Annie to show you how to carve out a die?
Do you want to do soldering again?
Someone asked what torch tip size we were using on the Smith Little. Really larger one than we needed for the job.
Yeah,
whatever was on here. Yeah, my guess is a 5. What does that say? 5 or 6? 5. It's a 5.
I have a confession to make. I never change my tips. Yeah, that's a 5.
Yeah.
When I first learned to solder, when I was in college, the only torch we had was a gigantic natural gas torch. Like, the tip was probably good 1/2 inch diameter. And so I learned how to solder tiny things with the world's biggest.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great lesson in heat control.
It is.
Someone's asking about like soldering the jump rings to the chain.
So I did not for these. What you would do, I'm gonna grab a little third hand. So pretend this is your third hand. What I'll do is I will.
Best practice is to have all the jump rings soldered.
Do I do that all the time? No. But it is best practice. Okay. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to orient the jump ring so that the opening of the jump ring is pointed up.
Yeah.
Can you see that?
Yeah, and you want the chain like as far away from that as possible so you don't actually solder that and freeze it in place.
You can use like an anti-flux. You could use the masking mud. I find I don't do that. It's just something that you could do. You could just take you could paint everything around it with the anti-flux or the masking fluid or masking mud. I usually just take a little tiny dollop of flux and then pick solder, just the tiniest little bit of solder.
Yeah,
teeny
you
tiny.
hardly need any.
They do make solder-filled jump rings. I haven't used them.
I never have either. I don't like the idea of them.
I haven't tried them. It seems like it would be a really good solution if you're going to be soldering a lot of little tiny jump rings. But yeah, has anyone used it before? I'm curious. I'm just afraid. I would definitely mix it up with my sterling.
We promise the red is not blood.
What, this and that?
Yeah. It kind of looks like it, but no. We do clean up the blood.
Yes. We don't show that part on camera.
I think that's like layout fluid or something.
That's what it looks like. So
Any more questions from you guys?
No interest in this? If not, I can do a video, like just a regular video, not a live. Just seeing if anybody's interested. No? Okay. Well, thanks for hanging out. Go take a look at our Impression Dies Spotlight. It is up through Sunday. What else do we have?
Someone just said they are interested.
They are interested?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to give you my
there's a couple in. Yeah.
Okay.
There's just a delay, I think.
Okay. Well, I'm going to still give my spiel. Go look
Yes.
Go look at the website.
Check out all these awesome dies.
Maybe you can talk while I get prepped.
Yes. I am a sucker for the little moons. I don't know why, but I really love the little moon face dies. Annie's going to get ready to carve that, so we're just going to look at these dies for a second while she gathers her thoughts. These little shot plate stars are just so sweet.
And easy
This
to
one,
use.
this is a shot plate that comes with like 4 stars. There's one extra star on here. I can't remember which one it is. Sometimes we sneak extra stamping or impressions onto dies. Like this one doesn't come with both. It just comes with this one. But when we use them in the shop, sometimes we try to sneak extra stuff on there. Aren't these so sweet? I paired these with like some freshwater pearls and made some earrings.
Oh yeah, really pretty.
And they were really sweet.
Yeah. We have some visitor. Do you know? Okay. Okay, so what I'm gonna do with these, again, this is one shot plate, these 3. These are different. Which is, we've sold our shop used shot plate bundles before. Basically, whenever we build up enough, we're gonna put them up for sale. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna grab my handy dandy scribe, and the steel we use is mild steel. So you can carve it with just your regular burrs, files, things like that. I'm just gonna give myself a little bit of a guideline. I don't know if you can see that at all.
Yep.
For where I want to carve a loop or the ring. So what I'm gonna start with doesn't really matter. I think
They're asking if you can maybe give some tips when you're carving to avoid having the burrs skip around.
I'll show you how I hold it. And also a lot of that will come with just experience and practice. I know that's kind of our go-to answer, but it's really true. I'll show you how I hold my hands. We'll move back to the bench pin.
A good place to practice, I learned from Annie.
Come back.
On the back of your impression dies, you can play around.
Look at that blank canvas.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Oh, we also sell blank impression die pucks, but if you just want to get some burr control,
practice. Especially when doing this, you want to use your lubricant for sure.
Otherwise your burrs will die a fast death.
Yeah. So when I do start carving, it's not going to be like I'm going to make one pass and it's going to be this perfect curved line that's exactly what I need it to be. I'm going to take this we're gonna try this. This is a tiny little heart burr. And so I'm gonna try and carve just a really faint line just so that I can get some purchase on like the round burr that I'm gonna switch to. And I'm just gonna slowly get deeper and deeper and increase the size burrs that I'm using. It's gonna be a slow process. So I probably won't do the whole thing, but I will show you, how I get started. Okay. I use a quick change hand piece.
She fancy like that?
Fancy. Lynette loves
I like the number 30. I
The
don't want to
same.
have to buy things that are all the same size. I want to use whatever I want to use and have it fit in my flex shaft and not worry about it. I have feelings.
I have strong, big feelings. I have 2 flex shafts at my bench.
Well,
which does...
like I said, she's fancy.
It's the first time anyone's ever called me fancy. Okay, so I'm gonna keep this lubricant handy. Setup. Make sure that everything is solidly held in place on your bench pin. Everything is locked together. So I have, to get at a better angle, I'm holding the puck up, but the palm of my hand is braced underneath the bench pin. I have, 3 fingers and a thumb on the piece so that it does not move, but then I'm also able to manipulate it a little bit. In the hand with my flex shaft, I'm gonna have my hand braced against the bench pin. I'm going to have one finger, usually my middle finger, resting on the shank of the burr itself. And that's going to give me that little bit of control that I'll need. I'll have my ring finger resting on the die, my pinky finger is gonna be resting on the die, thumb and index finger holding the flex shaft.
The more points of contact you have, the more
The better.
control you're going to have.
Yeah.
Peter says, I think of it as almost gently brushing the burr over the steel. That's another
Yeah.
thing is like,
not-
don't put a ton of pressure on what you're doing. Like, it's okay to take small bites.
Yeah. It's ideal to take
Yes.
small bites, for sure. I would probably use magnifiers, but I'm not right now. I'm going sort of at a medium speed. You don't want to just gun it. That's a really good way to overheat your burrs and change the temper. So right now, I am just taking little light cuts.
And you're going in the opposite direction that the burr is
Correct.
spinning.
So
So the burr is spinning towards me.
towards the camera.
Yeah. And she's pulling away. She's going to have more control that way. Now she's going back and forth.
I've started a little bit of a groove. Another advantage of starting light and not just going full send is you can make modifications to the angle or to the shape of the curve, and you can really refine it.
Right now, she's just getting like a channel started.
Yeah.
She's giving herself a guide to follow.
And I have the lubricant nearby. And now I'm just applying a little bit more pressure. This is where if you have some silly putty or clay or something, you could use it to take the impression of what you've carved so far to kind of get an idea of what it's looking like.
I have silly putty on my desk.
We are so far from needing.
Okay, just throwing it out there.
Thank you. So right now I'm basically just getting the curve that I want established. I'm getting that groove because it's going to make it a lot less likely that the ball burr that I'm going to switch to will pop out. So I'm just kind of going over the same spots. Again, can you see my whole hands? Like how everything is just like tightly bound together.
I'm zooming out, but yes, we can see now.
Okay. It's like, actually my pinky is even underneath my bench pin. It's very solid. My arms are tucked in. The only part that can move is literally right here. Just this little tiny bit.
She's high strung. What can she say?
This is true.
Just kidding.
I had a massage therapy because last week
wound a little tight, Annie.
My neck was last week. I had a neck brace because of a neck issue, and I had massage therapy. Holy crap! She's like, "Oh, you're tight." Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she's starting with the heart burr, and then she's gonna switch probably to a ball burr.
Use whatever.
You don't have to do it this way. You could start directly with the ball burr.
I like having just kind of a crisper line. It's easier for me to establish a nice straight line with the sharp edge of a heart burr.
Yeah, plus you're removing less metal. If you think about that burr coming to a point on the edge, if you go at it with a ball burr, you're like removing more metal at once.
And you don't.
And you're more likely to slip. Yeah.
Okay. So this is a ball burr. I'm starting with a small one. Same thing. My hands everything's locked in place. Like somebody could come up here and like nudge me and I'm not gonna move.
Just kidding.
Proof. Okay. So everything, I guess one other thing to keep in mind is if you're doing curved lines, an arc in this direction is much more normal for your hand movement than to make like a U shape motion. So position the piece that you're working on in the location where it's going to be a more natural movement for your hand. I don't know if that makes sense.
It does.
Okay. So just something to keep in mind. With the ball burr, you don't want to go straight down like at a 90-degree angle. That's going to be nearly impossible to control. We're going to hold it just like we did with the heart burr. And I'm going to just follow that line that I carved out.
She's letting the tool do the work and not aggressively pushing, not trying to make this go super fast. Her speed is low. So much more control this way.
Wear magnification. I'm not, but I should probably. Yeah, I'm going very slow. Lots of lubricant.
Yeah, the lubricant, I'm zoomed in too far to see, but she's got it right here, and she's very frequently coming over and relubing her burr. That was a relube.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm probably not going to do the whole depth of this because it will take a long time.
I think they're getting a good idea.
So?
Yeah.
Okay.
Someone says, this is all super helpful to see and hear.
Yay! That is our goal.
Someone else said they need a massage too.
Oh, do it. This was
Jennifer.
More like massage therapy. They spent an hour and a half just on my shoulders and neck, and it hurt so bad. But now I can move my neck.
It wasn't relaxing per se.
It was not a spa day, but it was worth it. Right now, I'm gonna focus on, so this right beneath where my burr is. That's the impression, and I can tell that I need to come, like the depth, and maybe I will grab your putty.
It's under the plier rack, yeah.
And you'll be able to see it a lot better. Ooh, pink.
And you guys will have to make sure to watch next week too, because next week Annie's gonna demo something that we've never demoed before in any of our videos, so it'll be a good one.
Okay.
Um,
Is it better if I hold it like that?
yeah.
Okay. So you can see the depth where I've carved here is much shallower than the impression itself. So my ideal goal would be to carve this groove as deep as these ends of the impression itself. That way there's a smooth transition. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
But again, it's about going slow, and it is definitely do like what Lynette suggested. Turn your piece over, try carving straight lines, or try carving curved lines, S-curves, because what will happen, you know, if you don't have full control, this side, if you're just holding it loosely, like it's gonna skitter even when you're trying to keep it straight, you know.
High speed too will do that.
Yeah.
Someone's asking, like, after the burrs, how would you go in to kind of refine and polish?
You could use gravers. I don't. You could use little tiny polishing cones, polishing bullets.
They have these little,
They're like adapters. Is that what you're?
no, they have little bits like this, but that are Arkansas stone.
Oh, nice.
They're really tiny, and they would be perfect for that. But even these, I've used these to clean up the inside of impressions. This is a polishing one, but if you buy like the black, it's more abrasive. This is like a medium grit. Lots of tools.
Yeah.
Also, you'll be surprised like how smooth things look just with the ball burr.
Yeah. And remember that your customers are not looking under magnification. Just do a little bit more. Also, like I'm gonna flip this over and do. Is everyone pretty much clear with this before I talk about something else?
I think so. If you have
Okay.
questions, chime in.
Okay. So you would just keep going until you get to that depth. Thinking about cleaning up pucks. So let's say, because a lot of the pucks that we sell, or a lot of the impression dies that we sell, are made with the original masters that were made over 100 years ago. Some of them are gonna have like a little bit of rust pitting. I don't know.
Yeah, one of the stars, this little guy has some rust pitting in the original, and it's gonna come that way if you buy it. It's an artifact of the antique tool.
Was it this one?
Yeah.
Okay. This is actually a really good example. Do you care if I carve it?
Nope.
Okay. So can you see the little tiny dots? Here. I know. Everything we did.
It's so tiny, and my phone is not the best. I don't know that they can see it, but they believe us.
Okay, believe us. So if in the impression die, not the hub, if in the impression die, you see little spots that are raised, when you press your silver or your copper, those little dots will be recessed in the stamping. So
they'll look like little pits.
What you can do, a really easy way to modify it, take a tiny little ball burr. You could use a diamond burr, really, really tiny. If it's raised in the impression die, you can go in very slowly on those little areas, carve down the high spots. Again, I don't know if you can really see it.
No, but they believe us.
Okay. So you can carve down those raised spots.
Jennifer said she finally used her sanding block from Harbor Freight and she loves it.
Yay! It's like our favorite thing.
I know, it's so sad.
We haven't used it in a long time. Okay, so that's a really quick way that you can, if there are raised pieces in the impression die that you don't want to be pits in the final piece. When deciding if I want to or need to modify the die, I think about whether it's going to be easier to fix in the die or if it's going to be easier for me to just take a file to or a sanding disc to after the silver is pressed on the actual piece itself. There's not a really good example.
That's
but,
okay.
That's just something to keep in mind is like, is it something that's going to be easier for me to remove in the die, or is it something that I can just take a quick little sanding disc to?
I think for this little star, those pits you were working on, the little raised bumps making these little pits, I think it's better to clean it up in the die.
Correct.
Because this will be hard to adjust after the fact.
Yep, absolutely.
So that's a great tip.
Yeah. So that's pretty much it. Does anyone have any more questions? If not, we will get back to work. We'll let you get back to work.
We'll see you next week for an awesome demo that is something we haven't shown before.
Ever. It'll be good. So thanks, everybody. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you next week.
All right. Bye, everybody.